Hello friends, welcome back to the Craft Castle. In previous videos, I've showed you how to make DIY croc gibbets using buttons that we find over at the craft store. I've also shown you in another video how to make your own bog bag and croc gibbets utilizing your laser cutter, doing acrylic cutouts. Now the problem with both of those videos is that you are going to be depending on something else, like owning an expensive laser that can cut all acrylics, or finding the right button that you're wanting to use for your DIY croc gibbets. But what if I told you there was actually a way to make fully customized croc gibbets without ever needing a special laser cutter or special piece of equipment? Seriously, I made these custom croc gibbets only using a printer that I have here in my craft room that isn't anything special, and some scissors. It was so easy to make my own custom croc gibbets. And I'm gonna show you how to make them today because this is the best project I think I have ever made here in the Craft Castle. Now, if you see my other tutorials on how to make your own croc gibbets, the supplies are essentially going to be the same. I'm gonna be using my hand Dremel and I'm gonna be using the croc gibbets that I've always loved. I'm also gonna be using the same exact glue because preparation is key in order to make these croc gibbets last a long time. However, there's one supply that you're going to need to pick up in order to make your own 100% customized croc gibbets, and that is going to be this right here, which is printable Shrinky Dink paper. This stuff right here is not expensive at all, but I would like to time out because technically you don't actually need a printer. If you are an amazing artist, which I am not, I have terrible penmanship and I can't draw even a smiley face or a stick figure. But if you're so blessed to have wonderful penmanship and you're able to draw, you actually just need some crayons or colored pencils. You can draw right on top of this Shrinky Dink paper and then follow the rest of the steps of this video to create your own custom croc gibbets. So you technically don't need a printer, but I'm gonna use a printer today because again, I kind of stink at drawing. Now, if you're also like me and you aren't very good at drawing, you're gonna wanna continue watching this because I'm gonna show you how we take images, free images that we find online. I'm gonna drop them into my free Canva account, set it all up, and then we're going to print it and make our own croc gibbets that are exactly the way we want them. Are you ready to get crafting? Let's go. For today's project, we are going to be using a free account within Canva. Now, you definitely could pay for Canva, I do, but I just wanted to show you that this particular project is actually really cheap and DIY friendly because we actually don't have to pay for any special programs in order to make really cool croc gibbets. So the very first thing you want to do is make a new project inside Canva. What I'm going to do is come over here into create a design, and I am going to come down here to custom size. Now what we want to do is create the exact page size to the shrink paper that we're going to be using. So I'm going to change it from units from pixels over into inches. And then for the width, I'm going to do 8.26. And the height, I am going to do 11.69. Now I have been asked before, so I just want to mention this, and the question was how do I know when to use pixels or inches? Now for me, when I'm doing any type of project that is going to be printed on a sheet of paper, I'm going to do that in inches because all of the paper comes in inches. Now if this is only going to be a design that is only going to stay on the computer and you're never going to have to print it or anything like that, then you can just stick over to pixels. And the higher amount of pixels, the more resolution your project will have. So that's just something to keep in mind. But we're just going to come over here into inches and press create new design. So this white rectangle that's right here is going to be our printed paper. Now what we need to do is get some characters to fit into that. So what I now am going to do is just press this little plus sign right here to get me into a new window of my Internet Explorer. Now what you need to do is ask yourself, what kind of croc gibbet are you wanting to make today? So for me, because this character is extremely popular, I'm going to make a bluey croc gibbet today. So I'm just going to put in bluey, and then I'm going to put in character, and then I'm going to put PNG. Then all I'm going to do is just press return. Okay, then what we want to do is come over here into images. Now, all of these images are going to be available for you to use. Now, here is the drawback when it comes to a free Canva account. If you choose a
PNG file that has a background. So let's just say this one right here, because there is a blue background, blue and white background, right? If we were to keep this one and we were to right click, copy this image and put it over into Canva, pressing paste, this button right here, this background remover button, is a Canva Pro account feature. So you're not going to be able to remove the background of this character. Now, if you wanted to keep the background, that's perfect. But generally when we're making these Croc Jibbitz, what we want is these characters, right? So this isn't something that you would want to choose if you're not paying for a Canva Pro account. In my other account, I do pay for Canva Pro, so I do have this available for me. I absolutely love this feature in the Canva Pro account. But since we're doing the free version, what you want to do is inside this spot right here, right? What you want to do is find images that do not have a background. So something like this. Doesn't have a background, does have a little signature, but you can cut that out, you know, by hand. But this one doesn't have a background. This one actually would be really good to use. I actually really like this image of Bingo. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to right click this and I'm going to copy image. And I'm going to go back into Canva and I'm going to paste Command V. And there is my bingo. Now what you want to do is fill up your page with all of the other Croc Jibbitz that you're wanting to make today. This project seriously is so easy because all you have to do is just find your image, copy, and then paste it into Canva. We're going to worry about resizing here in a second. Okay, once you have all of your clip arts into Canva, the next thing that we have to do is resize all of our clip arts. Now let's take a time out here because we're going to talk a little bit about math. So the shrink paper that we are using today shrinks about 46%, so a little under half. If you wanted your finished Croc Jibbit to be 1 inches, that means that you have to make this 46% larger than 1 inch. I'm just going to keep it simple and say that this shrink paper shrinks 50%. So if I want my finished Croc Jibbit to be 1 inch, that means that I am going to make my cutouts on my screen 2 inches tall. So clicking on my very first clip art, I'm going to come over here into position and I am going to make sure that this is locked and I am going to change my height over to 2 inches, meaning at the very end, it will be 1 inch. Or around there. So once we have this all shrunk down, you're going to see that I have a lot of material that I can still use, right? If you want to, you can continue filling up your page, or you could just stop here. The choice is up to you. If you wanted to stop here, I think this is a really good little stopping point for me. All I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here into share, and I'm going to press download. And since I'm going to be printing this, I am going to click on this right here and I'm going to go to the PDF because I am going to be printing this. And then all I'm going to do is just press download and my file is going to download onto my computer. All right, and then using the shrink paper is really easy. This is going to be our shrink paper. What you want to do is print on the rough white side. So this right here is shiny, that you don't want to print on. You want to print on the rough white side. Just insert that into our printer. And then over at the computer, all you want to do is just press Command P. You want to make sure that you're selected on the correct printer that you're going to be using, and just making sure that I have the correct paper size selected. And this stuff doesn't give us like a print setting of what we should be doing. So I'm just going to not select plain paper. We're going to go into a thicker cardstock paper just because it is a pretty thick piece of paper. Okay, then I'm just going to press OK and then press print on my computer and it is going to start printing. The quality of these prints are actually really good. I love the way that all of these prints turned out. Okay, let's take this over to the craft table and we're going to keep on crafting. All right, so now all we need to do is just take out our scissors and cut out all of our little shapes. It's best to do this now because it will be impossible after we get done shrinking these. We could have totally also made these shrinks on the Cricut and had the Cricut cut them. but you know, not everyone has a Cricut machine. So I definitely wanted to give you the best option for making DIY Croc Jibbitz that didn't require any type of special equipment. Now, what I would have done if I was using my Cricut was made it to where I just did all the design process in Cricut Design Space and did a traditional print then cut, just like any other print then cut project. Now, since all of these are cut out, I do suggest if you're going to be using a heat gun to lay down something to protect your table. I have my heat blower right here, and because it actually blows hot air like a hair dryer, a hair blow dryer, I'm just going to use this to like hold my stuff down. I'm just going to place it down just like that. And we're just going to do it one at a time. So all you need to do is just heat this up. And look at how teeny tiny they ended up turning out. So tiny. And then I like to just give them one good pat down so they land nice and flat. Okay, so when you have them shrunk, they are going to be pretty thick, hard plastic pieces. Love that. Now, I would like to note that these ended up shrinking a lot more than 50%. So remember when I sized these up, I sized them up at 2 inches to actually have a finished size of about 1 inch because it only shrinks 46%, right? That would not be half. So that technically they should be a little bit over 1 inch. However, some of these end up being like a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. So they definitely shrunk a lot more than 46%. Now, if you've watched any of my other Croc Jibbit DIY videos, the prep that I'm going to do today is going to be the exact same as every other video. And that is taking out my little Dremel tool. Love this thing right here. Has a little sandpaper reel to it. And all I'm going to do is prep the back of this. So this right here is going to be your front and this is the back, right? It's nice and smooth. The problem about doing nice and smooth stuff is that when you glue these together, there's nothing to grip. So what we have to do is rough up the edges a little bit. So all you do is taking the backer of your new Croc Jibbit, you just want to turn it on and you just want to rough up your piece. You want to make sure that the glue has something to glue to adhere to. And you don't have to do a whole huge sand. You just want to get it enough to where it's nice and rough for the Jibbit to go onto. All right, when you have that done, all you want to do is just take a bit of rubbing alcohol. Oh, also I'd like to note that you did not need one of those Dremel tools. You could have just used sandpaper and hand sanded them yourself. I like to do the Dremel just because it's quicker. And all you want to do now is taking just a little bit of alcohol and you want to squirt it onto the back of your Jibbitz. This is just making sure that all that dust that we just created is completely off the backs of your Croc Jibbitz. So then when we adhere the connector pieces, you're going to be able to have a really good connection. This is really important because the glue will adhere better without having any type of disruptions like glue particles and dust particles. Okay, you want to make sure and save all of this stuff and keep it out because we are going to do the same exact thing with our connector pieces. These are the Croc Jibbit connector pieces. I've been making these Croc Jibbitz and I've only had to purchase this once. They come in a huge pack. Now, before we glue them on, what you want to do, I would say that the larger side is the one that goes into the crock. Well, I guess it depends on the size. When you're using kid-size Crocs, the holes are a little bit smaller, and so you're going to want to use this one to go inside. However, if you're doing this for an adult, these ones right here is what needs to go into your shoe just so it doesn't slip out. So you're going to want to make sure and, use your shoe to figure out which side you want to glue on. I am going to glue on the smaller side since these are going to go onto an adult size Croc. So I'm just going to rough up my edge. Okay, when you're done doing that, then essentially it's time to pack up that little Dremel tool or your sandpaper because you don't need it anymore. And then what you want to do is use your rubbing alcohol, doing the same thing that we did with the backs of our Croc Jibbitz. You just want to make sure and dust off the backs of these stuff so it has a good adhesion when we glue these together. Prep work is definitely the most important of this project, just to make sure that your Croc Jibbitz are perfect for long time. All right, now taking my Croc Jibbitz, I'm just going to set them out just like this. Okay, now I am going to be using this glue right here. I love this glue because it is a gap filler, which is perfect for these right here because not all of them are perfectly flat, and they do a very, very strong and good bond. Most of the time I have this rebottled into a needle nose bottle, but this time I'm just going to use the bottle itself. All I'm going to do is just put a little dab of glue on the back of my Croc Jibbit. And then putting in the sanded back, we'll put it onto my Croc Jibbit. Now, the downfall of using this glue is that you're going to have to wait 24 hours before it dries. This right here takes 24 hours to dry. So you don't want to move these around in that time frame because otherwise the glue won't work. So the only downfall to this project and using this glue is 24 hours. Now, I have seen other people make Croc Jibbits, and what they use is UV resin. If you had UV resin, you could totally do this project using UV resin instead. And what that does is just cures under a UV light within 30 seconds, I believe. You could totally do that. The reason why I don't use UV resin in my project is because UV resin gets brittle versus the silicone glue will give a little bit of movement on your adhesion to your backer, which is perfect for putting it onto shoes because your shoes bend, right? They're always bending. If you use a brittle type of glue like UV resin, when you bend your shoe, the UV resin is going to be like this, right? It's going to bend and your UV resin is going to stay like that. And so when you bend your shoe, it's going to bend your Croc Jibbit off. So I like using the silicone glue because the silicone glue will go with the bend because there is some elasticity in the glue. It doesn't make it less effective. It just makes it to where there is more give, like bubble gum. This is going to be the front of my Croc Jibbit, and then this is going to be the back, and we are just going to let these dry for 24 hours before we put them on our Croc Jibbit.
Isn't being a crafter just like so cool? Because we could take Shrinky Dink Paper and then make custom Croc Jibbit. I bet non-crafters are like, how in the world did you make that? And we're like, it was easy. But I mean, it was really easy, right? And that's exactly why I love being a crafter, is because we can make really cool things look extremely difficult to make, but actually it wasn't. All right, y'all, I sure hope I inspired you to create, and I'll see you later.